right, well, welcome to Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central Coming of Age. Just real quick, as you may have heard, all attendees are on mute. But however, if you do have any questions as we go along, please feel free to enter them in the chat section, and we will be more than happy to go through questions as we go through the presentation. So our agenda today is we're going to do an overview of Dynamics 365 Business Central. We're going to look at what is it and what's improved over the years. So we at Boyer were on one of the initial releases of Business Central. So we've kind of gone through some of the growing pains and some of the early on issues. And we just kind of want to walk through all the improvements Microsoft's really made, because Microsoft's really investing in Business Central. And they're rolling out updates twice a year on it to add functionality and performance and stability. We'll also look at high level. Some of you maybe have not seen Business Central before, so we want to kind of go through a high level of the user interface, some of the functionality. It's a very feature-rich software, so we can't get into a lot of details on this session. We're more than happy to have additional conversations with you, though, but we do want to give you an idea of what the system looks like and how you can navigate through the system. So again, from a functionality standpoint, very strong GL, AP, AR, bank rec, sales order processing, inventory management, purchasing processing, and then some additional modules that we won't look at today, but there is a projects module, or what they call jobs, very good manufacturing module, and then service management as well. So my name is Eric Vigasa. I am the Director of Business Solutions here at Boyer. I've been with Boyer for about over 13 years. I've actually got over 20 years of experience in the Microsoft ERP industry. My background is more on the consulting side of things. Recently, I worked as a solution architect and did some technical sales help on our sales side. Our mission statement here at Boyer is making businesses better. So that's something we really want to strive to. We want to be a partner with you. We don't want to be a vendor. So we want to help you really empower your data as part of our mission is getting the data out that you need to help you make decisions, linking systems together as well. A lot of times people might have an industry specific solution, or you might have an e-commerce site, or you might do fundraising through another application if you're a nonprofit. We want to help you link systems together to avoid duplicate data entry and also get that data out to you, again, to make business decisions. These are some of the products we work with. So again, here at Boyer, we are a Microsoft-centric shop. That's all we sell are the Microsoft Dynamics products. And those include some of the legacy on-premise systems, like you see here with GP, SL, and Nav, Business Central. We do the CRM products as well, which has now been rebranded Dynamics 365 Sales, customer and service, marketing. There's a fundraising and engagement as well, again, if you're a nonprofit. And then at the bottom is the Power Platform. So we have a Power Platform team as well. That's the Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agent. So again, these are Microsoft products that can extend functionality of CRM or Business Central, things of that nature. We were founded in 1994. We have 420 clients across those four major product lines. We are a gold certified partner, which is one of the top, it is the top certification with Microsoft. And again, we've been doing Business Central from wave one. So the past few years, we've been named one of the top 5% of partners taking clients to the cloud. And we're also nominated a Cloud for Nonprofit launch partner with Microsoft. So again, some of the functionality and what is Business Central. So Business Central is a true SaaS cloud product. There are no servers, no client installs, no upgrades. As I mentioned, Microsoft releases what they call wave one, wave two twice a year. Those are the major updates that roll out. Those typically happen in April and actually October. So we actually just went through the wave two release right now. Microsoft will do test upgrades. They will alert us as your partner if anything has failed, which we had a few. This past round, I think we had about 2 that had some issues. It was all stuff around a customization we had, so we just had to do some pretty minor changes to get that page to go through the upgrade, and then Microsoft did the did the production upgrade. Microsoft is doing disaster recovery for you as well, so they are doing 15-minute incremental backups. They do a full nightly backup. There is actually an admin center that you as the user can restore those backups if you need to, so you don't have to reach out to your partner if you don't want to. We're more than happy to help, and we don't have to reach out to Microsoft. In the past, you actually had to have Microsoft restore that backup if you had to for some reason, but now the partner, the end user, can do it. And we've had a couple of people who've gone through it. One needed to test their DR process, and we're successful. And we had another user that accidentally posted about 1,000 invoices, and they needed to revert back 15 minutes to get those back, and they were able to do that pretty easily. The graph you see here is, again, all the functionality in Business Central. So that inner dark blue circle is all that financial, distribution, manufacturing functionality. You go outside there, that's where we can start extending the functionality of Business Central. So we can do mobile warehousing with barcoding. We can do production resource scheduling and time floor entry if you're doing manufacturing. We can do EDI if you're processing any transactions with big box stores. E-commerce is there. When you go out beyond that, you get to that white circle where now we start getting some of the Microsoft integrations with Office 365, Power BI. We'll take a quick look at what Power BI can offer you. And then the access anywhere on the go. Again, this is a cloud solution. So if you have an internet connection and a web browser, you can connect to it. And there is a mobile app you can put on a phone or a tablet as well. So if you are sitting in an airport and you need to approve a purchase request, you can do that right from your phone. The smaller blue circle, that's all the CRM components. So again, sales, customer service, marketing, fundraising, engagement, project operations. There's a lot of functionality in CRM. Those two circles overlap because there are integrations built between the two. If you need anything beyond that, that's where Power Automate can really step in, and Power Automate can bridge the Dataverse, which is where CRM sits, with the Business Central data. And this is a quote from the CEO, Satya Nadella, just again, reiterating that Microsoft knows you are putting your data in the cloud, and they are putting a lot of security and compliance around that. All of that SOC documentation is available on Microsoft's site. Again, there is that redundancy. There are multiple data centers. So if one data center fails, it can roll over to another one. And that is where they are really heavily investing. And this actually is truly your data. So again, in that admin center, if you want to request a full backup of that database and restore it onto like an Azure Data Lake server somewhere, you can actually get a copy of that data. So this is your data sitting up in the cloud. So how Business Central has improved over the years, again, one of the big things early on, about 4 years ago, is the user interface really got a facelift. It was a little clunky, a little hard to navigate. Microsoft kind of streamlined that, and really with almost every release, we see them kind of fine tuning and improving the functionality and that interface. Power BI experience, Microsoft is really continuing also to invest in Power BI there. And then cloud migration. So if you happen to still be on one of those on-premise systems like GP, SL, or NAV, there are cloud migration utilities that we can do to migrate a lot of that data up into the cloud. So that's something that they started rolling out back then. 2019, something simple as a back button to a page. It used to be that if you were on a page, you always had to go to your home screen and then go to another page. Well, now you can actually use the browser back functionality. Search improvements, that continues to improve. We'll look at that once we get to wave 2. And again, command bars, popping open pages in additional windows. So you could have multiple pages open across web browser pages. So if you've got 2, 3 monitors, you can actually have things spread across all 3 monitors. 2020 is where we started seeing a lot of improvements to Office 365. So this is one area where Microsoft historically was pretty weak at. You could really tell that their products were siloed. They are doing a great job of now integrating all these products together, and we'll actually look at some of that functionality as well. They're improving page load times, filter and view list improvements, so we'll look at what that list view is. Last year with wave 1, the ability to correct and restrict dimensions. So again, if you're not familiar with a dimension, we'll talk about that, but it's really a segment or a code that you can have within your account string. So there's abilities to add some security around those dimensions. Bank rec, bank statement imports. Bank rec is another area that they continue to improve on. So a lot of bank reconciliation has improved over the last year and a half, I'd say. Cloud printing was another really big one we ran into, where you were trying to print to an on-premise printer, but you're up in the cloud. There was definitely some issues and support cases that we had to work through with that, but that has really improved, and those issues have really kind of dropped off. Dataverse, that is, again, where Power Apps and CRM data live. And so they improved that and improved the ability for BC and Dataverse to kind of talk and share information together. Again, some other functionality in here. We'll look at some of this edit in Excel, multi-currency improvements, Teams integration. So again, you see this ongoing theme of they're continuing to improve the interaction between all those Office 365 products. Earlier this spring, intercompany improvements, the ability to consolidate a customer and a vendor balance. So if you've got somebody who you buy stuff from, but they also buy from you, you can summarize those balances out when you go and cut a check to them. Shopify was added in. So again, if you're doing e-commerce, there's some built-in Shopify integrations there. Email attachments got stronger. Ability to share through OneDrive. So again, that theme of Microsoft connecting things together. And then this fall, improved financial reporting. We'll take a look at that. Multiple vendor remit to addresses. This was a pretty big one. The GP, some of our GP clients are starting to move up to Business Central, and they had the ability to have multiple remit tos on a vendor record. So you could actually pick, you know, I got to send a payment up to California, but for this other invoice, it's got to go to Atlanta, for example. That functionality has been added into this release. Bi-directional sync of sales orders between Business Central and CRM or Dynamics 365 sales. So this was another big one that we kind of ran into some issues with about 2 years ago, but now you're able to have order changes sync between both of them. Shopify improved, again, improved bank reconciliation and improved Excel reporting. So let's actually hop into the demo here. So let me just pull up my web browser. So Business Central is browser agnostic, so you can use any browser you want, Chrome, Safari. I'm actually in Edge. The only reason why I really start off in Edge is I just like to point out to people that I am signed in here with my domain account. So I'm just using a demo, a mod admin account it's called. But part of how Microsoft is connecting things together is if I come in and I want to look at all of my apps here, I'm just going to go grab all of my apps. It's going to show with my one mod admin account everything within Microsoft that I have access to. So I can connect to Excel in here. I can go connect to Power BI, Word. I'd have Outlook in here as well if I wanted to. But here's actually where Business Central sits as well. So again, you're maintaining all of these app licenses through your Azure Active Directory, and Business Central is one of those applications as well. When I click on Business Central, then pops this screen up. So part of your licensing gives you the ability to have 3 sandbox environments. So it's actually telling me, all right, where do you want to go? Do you want to go to one of your sandboxes, or do you want to log into production? And I can just pick production and sign in. Now, what most people do is they will just bookmark Business Central. So as you see here, I've just got it bookmarked. You absolutely can just go right directly to a bookmark. You don't have to sign in the way I did there. I just like to kind of show again people how all those applications are managed under one roof, one ceiling. So this is Business Central. Again, some navigation. So I'm on my home page here. In my case, I'm a business manager, so I'm really kind of concerned with all things cash in, cash out. So this page is giving me multiple things I can do here. Up at the top, I've got a 2-click menu to get to specific pages that I need for my functionality. So there's my chart of accounts. If I need to process fixed assets, I can do that. If I come into cash management, there's where I can do vendor payments. There's where I can receive customer payments. There's my reconciliation. With sales, I've got my customers, items, quotes, orders, invoices. Same on the purchasing side, vendors, quotes, orders, invoices. With Business Central, if you are a service-based organization, you could process everything as an invoice. If you actually do want to do a requisition and process it all the way through an order to an invoice, you can. If you just want IT to be the only ones processing orders, you can do that as well. So Business Central gives you flexibility of how transactions flow based on what your internal processes look like. I also have the ability to really bookmark any page in the system. So if I want to get to something quickly and I don't want to do this 2-click, I can just click on my vendors here, for example. It'll take me right into my vendor list page. This starts getting into some of those list views that have been improving. So I can actually, I'm just going to hide this filter quick. So these list views are the same if I'm looking at customers, vendors, transactions, journal entries, chart of accounts. They all pretty much function the same. I've got the ability to do searches in here. I've got the ability to do filtering. So when I open up that filter, you can actually see I've got one here where I just want to look at all my vendors that are in 763 area code. So I can click on that and it pulls up those vendors. So I've just got these filtering capabilities in here. I've got virtually every field on the vendor that I can filter to, and then create those as favorites here. I can change sorting on here as well. So if I want to look at, what vendors do we have a high balance on, I can actually do a descending sort here and see, we got somebody with a pretty large balance in here. If I actually drill back on Wide World Importers, this is where you're going to see one of those Office 365 links now. So in here, I've actually got a link to SharePoint. So I've got documents in SharePoint. If I click on them, it'll actually redirect me into SharePoint. I can look at the vendor information here. So here's where all kind of that setup information is. And up here is where I can click and do this share to Teams. So when I do this, it's actually going to pop up a Teams dialog to tell me, ask me who do I want to send this to. I've just got an example here of I've sent this over to Megan. So Megan actually would get this view here. And again, this share to Teams is on virtually every area of the system. So if I'm looking at an account balance, or maybe I'm looking at a specific journal entry or a specific invoice, or I'm concerned about on-hand quantities of an item, any page I've got that functionality where I can share it to Teams to make sure Megan and I are on the same page and we are talking about the exact same thing. So Megan gets this view, she can actually click on details, and now Teams is going to redirect her into Business Central to that specific page that I shared out to her. You can see it is going through a security layer, so if the person you share it with does not have access to Business Central, they can't get into it. So there is still security in play here. But now Megan is interacting with that exact same page through Teams, so she can look at this information, she could open up attachments, she can click on this balance here, and this is going to take me into another list view. So now I'm actually looking at all the past due invoices. The red is an indicator that it's past due. In this list, this is another one of those list views, so she can search, she can sort, she can filter, she can, maybe I want to look at these by due date, so I want to do an ascending sort. I can see all the old invoices out here. I got stuff going all the way back to 2020. Even in this screen here, Megan can come in here and say, you know what, I gotta get some of this stuff paid. Let me get these 3 March invoices processed, and she can come up here and actually queue up a payment. So Business Central, I do have the ability to do a paper check. I can do an ACH payment, so we'll actually create and submit a file up to the bank, so the bank will remit the funds. Or I can do what's called a manual payment, so maybe we already wired the money or the vendor automatically withdrew the money. I just need to process that payment. I don't need to actually initiate another payment out. Come back to my vendor page here. So all of these list views also have this little icon up here in the upper right hand corner, which gives me these options as well. So I can dump this data out to Excel. I can actually edit this data in Excel, and this edit in Excel is another area Microsoft's expanding on. So I can actually do this with transactions. With posted transactions, there's very few things you can edit. It might be a due date or a transaction description. Otherwise, if you need to make changes, you usually need to void the original transaction and re-enter it or do some kind of a correcting transaction because we need an audit trail on it. I can also share these with Teams as well, so it'd be the same thing. This link would go out to somebody and then they would come into the vendor page here. If I do this export to Excel, and again, I can do this with transactions, with item prices, virtually anything can export to Excel. So now here's my data in an Excel file. If I do the edit in Excel, I have a different interaction with my data. Now, I don't have to actually always come in here and do this edit in Excel. I can actually create a template ahead of time and just open it directly from Excel. So this is now going out to my vendor table, and it's going to bring that data in, and I'm now going to interact with my data real time using Excel instead of a web browser. So on the right-hand side here, it did go through an authentication process again, so it's making sure, hey, can mod admin do what they're trying to do here? And at this point now, if I need to change vendor IDs, I could. If I need to change names, I could. Maybe I don't like these. I need to change these addresses, and I have an address file somewhere else. I could do a VLOOKUP, pull them all in, publish them up. But if we look at like balance due here, you can see in the upper right-hand corner, that field shows as red. That's a read-only field, so I cannot change any kind of audit-sensitive field in the system. But here, if I look at phone number, I've got a number here for Boyer. That's wrong. I want to change it to, I'll make it all 9s. Maybe I want to change the number for not publishers to be all 3s. Once I've got those changes done, I hit this publish button down here, and it's going to push those changes now back up into the database for me. So that tells me that it's successful. I close out of this file. and refresh this page, we'll see our number for Boyer will update, and then our nod publishers will update as well. I'm just gonna go ahead and refresh this page. Here, nod changed all 3s, and Boyer changed all 9s. If I want to get back to my home page, I just click on my company name up here in the upper left-hand corner. And now that takes me back to my home page. Some other things on this home page here are the actions here. I'll cover these because there's actually quite a few new features on this actions pane. But here I've also got some queues set up. So again, as a business manager, I am concerned about cash in, cash out. So I can set thresholds on these. So right now we've got $270,000 of uncollected AR, which is a problem. So let's flag it as red. I've also got $600,000 of past due AP. That's a problem. So that's flagged in red. I can click on any of these or any of these fact boxes and actually get to the detailed data behind it. So if I want to see those past due invoices, I can drill onto that. And again, I'm in a list view, so I can search, I can sort, I can filter, and I can dump all this data out to Excel. Maybe I need to email this file over to somebody and say, hey, why hasn't this been paid yet? I've got that data accessible that way now as well. Also, in any of these pages, and this also applies to data entry pages, I can personalize these pages. So when I'm looking at this, maybe some of this information isn't important to me. I don't really care about the user ID. I can click on this gear icon and go to personalize. And again, this is one of those areas Microsoft keeps improving on. So I can come in here and say, I don't care about this user ID. I want to hide that. 1099 code is a little more important to me though. I want that a little more front and center. I can drag that over here. I can add fields in. And again, this is where Microsoft's improving, is they keep adding fields that I can pull into this list. And so now any of these fields, I could go ahead and bring this in here. Maybe I do want to see that, that purchaser code. I can drag that in, drop it, and now that field's been added to the page. Hit done, locks in those changes. So now this is what my view looks like. And again, this is a per user basis. You can absolutely restrict this down if you don't want people changing forms. Maybe we lay out the page the way we want to see it from an organizational standpoint, but you can let users have this experience. So just a few other things in here. I've got approvals. So Microsoft does have workflow built in. They're also really expanding out the Power Automate integration with Business Central. Again, that's ways we could run things for approvals. So I've initiated 13 requests. I can actually click on that fact box and see who am I waiting for. So I'm waiting on Joni on a couple, Megan on a few, and I've also got the ones that I need to approve. So if I click on these, here are my 6 requests. I can take action on here. If I need to pop open that invoice, I can actually open it up. What we're now going to be looking at is this is what the document entry page looks like for a purchase quote, purchase order, purchase invoice. Going to look almost identical if it's on the sales side as well. So this is actually what the data entry screen looks like. So here's where that invoice is. And again, if I need to take action, I can. If I had any attachments, I'd be able to see those attachments. If we had anything in SharePoint. I've also got the ability to approve these documents through Outlook though. So if I don't want to do it through here, if I pop into Outlook, you can actually see an example of an email alert I get. So here, Joni Sherman, I'm in her inbox, actually needs to approve a PO. So she can click on this PO link and it's going to redirect her into that page where she's now in that screen. So now she could look at attachments, she could look at the transaction and then take action on the approval here. But you can see the screen is locked down because it's pending approval. We cannot make any changes at this point. I could cancel the approval request if I wanted to and then re-enter the changes and then resubmit it through the chain. But right now I can only really approve or deny it. One other thing with Outlook I just want to show as well real quick is this is an example of an email that Eric Vigas has sent over to Joni. So Eric is actually a contact for a vendor, Boyer and Associates. And Eric is questioning an invoice that's past due. So you can actually see that invoice has a link on it. This is not a pre-embedded hyperlink. This is a plugin that Business Central has where I can actually click on that document number and Outlook is detecting that it's a transaction in Business Central. So I can click on it and now actually redirects me right into that invoice. Now again, I can see exactly what did we purchase from that vendor. I can actually come up here and take some action on it as well. And maybe I want to go look at comments, figure out, why have we not paid this yet? There are some comments in here and I'm able to see that information. If I wanted to pop this out, I could to make it bigger. I can also come up to this contact insight. So this works on both the customer or the vendor side. And in fact, Eric is a contact for both. So if I want to go in and see the vendor details or the customer details, I can do that right from Outlook. So here it says, all right, you're tied to Boyer and Associate. I can click on that, and now I can see vendor balances. I can see past payments. I can see posted invoices. I can actually see a document attachment here as well. I could open that up if I wanted to. But here's where I can look at that open balance we have on Boyer. See all the invoices. Again, the red's past due. These are current. I can click on an invoice if I want. See that information. I'll pop this one out. And now I'm looking at a posted invoice in this case. I could drill back onto payments if I want to see, when's the last time we paid Boyer. I've got a little aging chart in here, and then I'd be able to see these fact boxes where I could click on any kind of historical document that I want to look at. I also can initiate some new transactions here. So if I want to start an invoice right from here, I can do that, and it's actually going to default in that Boyer vendor information, and I just need to fill out the lines. All right, finally, some other things in here. I've got some charts that I can put in here. I can actually interact with these charts. So this is an open AR one. If I want to see, what's past 8 months due, I can click on that 43,000, and it's actually going to show me the 2 transactions making up that amount. If I want to go back even farther, I can come up here and do this show document. So this will actually take me back into that original invoice, so I can drill all the way back into that transaction. And this applies if I'm at the GL side, I can go all the way back to that source transaction. If I'm at the subledger side, I can actually go look at the full GL distribution impact of that transaction. So you've got this bi-directional drill capabilities within Business Central. Then I've also got Power BI integrations here. I've got a little mini trial balance. Again, I can drill down on these balances if I want to see the details behind it. These Power BI reports, I can interact with them as well. So if this is looking a little bit small, I can actually pop this out, but I have the ability to select a different Power BI report if I want to view. But here's where I can go and say, let's look at our transportation. You can see everything adjusts as I pick my revenue by industry. I can change some filtering in here as well if I wanted to. Also with Power BI though, if you've got users that need access to that reporting information, but they don't need to be in Business Central, I can actually just go right to my Power BI workspace. So let's go ahead and launch into Power BI. And this is again how we can share data from multiple sources. So again, it could be a custom SQL database, and it could be CRM, and it could be Business Central, and I could have an Excel file. I could bring all 4 sources together, combine that data, and then have a single report that I can process out. So if I want to look at my Business Central sales insights, I want to look at our revenue that we've got in the system. So again, sample of what Power BI can do here. You can see I've actually got multiple reports on the left-hand side here, and I've also got quick links to all those reports here. So if I want to go look at, let's go look at my total sales item overview, I can click on that. And now I get this dashboard here, so I can actually see my sales by items. I've got all these kind of plot points and charts in here. If I want to look at how are our sales reps doing, I can come into here and see all of my different sales reps. I got the ability to kind of collapse in here. I could put I've got filters in here as well if I want to filter down to anything. Then I even can do some drill downs as well in here. So if I do the sales deep dive here, I can actually look at my sales by a month, and I can see, well, hey, June's a lot higher this month. I can click on June, and it's actually going to show me now all of my customer transactions that I had for the month of June. I can then drill down onto active transport and see all of their individual invoices. So it looks like we just had one big invoice that we sold to active for the month of June. If I want to come back to 2021, I can come click on here, and it kind of resets everything and lets me kind of do that walk down those transactions as well. All right, so some of the new functionality that's come through with Business Central is I've got the ability here to do a couple things. I've got this find entries. So if I click on find entries, what this is actually letting me do is go through the whole system and find a transaction. So, I don't know the date, I don't know the document number. I knew it had a 12 in it, so I can just kind of do a contains 12 here. Click find. It's going to go through all the different modules in the system and find me every single document that's got the 12 in it. So I can see posted sales documents. I can see I've got 309 journal entries. I've got purchasing documents in here. I've got warehouse transactions. If I want to go look at my sales invoices here, I can click on that. There it shows me my 13 invoices. Yep, it was that one for Alpine Ski House. That's the one I wanted to go back and look at. I can click on that and now I actually see that invoice. So if I needed to resend this one over, I could email this invoice out. invoice templates, order templates, you can actually modify those templates using Word. So you know, an end user can absolutely handle any kind of changes to it. You don't need a developer, and you can have multiple templates. So if Alpine Ski House should have a unique invoice format, I can set that up, assign it to their record, and make sure they get their unique invoice, and everybody else kind of gets our generic company Cronus invoice. This came out new as well this fall, so this just released, you know, about 2-3 weeks ago. Is this searching data? So this is actually letting me go all the way down to the line level. So I've got an item that we buy and sell. It's our Berlin chair. So if I want to see, you know, what orders do I have on that Berlin chair, I can type it in here, tab off, and now it's actually showing me all the posted invoices on purchasing sales side as well as the item. So I could drill back on one of these invoices if that's what I wanted to see, and go and find that document. And you can see how fast that search result came back too. So again, you can search on really anything. Maybe it's a customer name. I want to see what invoices we had out there for them. I can search on that, and it's taking me down to that line item detail to give me those transactions. Another area, and we'll kind of look at other report options here as well, but Excel reports. So Microsoft is expanding functionality to actually run reports through Excel. So if I want to come in here and actually run a trial balance report, I can click on that. Going to export this report out. Again, this could be something I could just initiate right from Excel. I don't have to always come in here. So when I hit enable editing, it's going to authenticate my user just like that edit in Excel did. Oh, looks like I've got a macro here that's getting blocked. Let me just see if this connects. Yep, I actually got to block that macro, and then this data would pull in. So what it's actually happening is a macro is running in the background. I have to make sure that that is a trusted macro, and then this would populate in here. But you know, basically what it's doing is it just exported out that file, so I could go ahead and run this report right from here if I wanted to. Let me just see if I can trust that file real quick. Let's give this one more quick try here. So I'm just going to launch it right from Excel this time. It's going to authenticate my user. And there my data pulled in as of today. All right, let's look at some other core functionality in the system. One other thing before I get to that real quick, I just want to show here in the help. So if I go into the help and support here, Microsoft's got a lot of help in here, so I can actually go out to the page that I'm on, and there's online help. There's actually video tutorials for a lot of things. So if you onboard some new AP person, you could actually have them watch the Microsoft videos of how do we process AP. I've also got this what's coming soon here. So if you want to go see any kind of new features that did roll out, you can actually look at the Wave 2 plan here. And there's actually this feedback page as well. So this is opening up to the community to actually suggest improvements, new features, functionality. You can vote on it. Years and years ago, I actually used to work for Microsoft on one of their other product lines, and they absolutely take these to heart. They do look at the ones that get voted on the most, and they do evaluate the cost to roll those in, and they will roll some of that functionality. Quite a bit of that functionality does come from these lists here. In fact, that's where that additional remit to address came from, was a lot of GP people were asking for it on this list here. Microsoft heard it, and they rolled that functionality in. So again, something unique to the Microsoft environment where they do really solicit feedback from the user base out there. So let me look at the chart of accounts. Again, if you haven't looked at Business Central before, I want to kind of give you some exposure. So this is a sample chart of accounts. This is absolutely definable by you. You can customize this the way you want to have it. This is one of the things we absolutely work on. So you have a chart of accounts today. You've maybe been working with it for 15 years. You want to make improvements. We talk through, okay, what do those improvements look like? Same thing on this page though. I've got those same options. I can actually do filtering here. So if I want to just kind of quickly go look at my expense accounts, I can click on that. I've got drill down capabilities in here. I want to look at what have we posted for rent. I can drill down on that. I can see all the detailed transactions. Again, I can do a date filter in here, dump this out to Excel. What you also are seeing in here now is those dimensions I mentioned. So this is where Microsoft is now extending the chart of accounts. So not only do I have my main account segment, but I can code a project, a department, a intercompany code if I wanted to. So dimensions in the system, you can have up to 8 of additional dimensions. Dimensions is one of those things I don't go to very often. So what I'm actually doing here is I'm clicking this looking glass up here in the upper right-hand corner, and I'm just going to type in dimensions. Again, this is one of the things that Microsoft's improved is this search, and it's returning me multiple results. So it's saying, all right, on your current page, there's where you can go ahead and correct a dimension. I posted the wrong department. I just need to change the department. I don't want to void and re-enter it. So the system lets me actually correct it again. New feature that came out in the past year. I can go to my pages related to dimensions. I can run reports on dimensions. I can go out to the help document to figure out, okay, how do I set up a new dimension? How do I manage my dimensions? And then this is the app source. So there's actually 34 products in this app source. What the app source is are independent vendors, independent partners. We actually call them ISVs, independent software vendors, that can create add-ins or plugins for Business Central. So there's actually 34 products out here that are extending the functionality of dimensions in some way, shape, or form. So there's a lot of additional functionality you can plug into here. And these extensions are always written in the same code set as Business Central. So when you install and deploy it, if you didn't know it was an extension or an app, you would think it's part of the core product. So they're all really tightly integrated together. But if I come into my dimensions page, so here's some of my sample dimensions I have. Again, you can have up to 8. You don't have to do 8. You could just do 1 or 2. But here's some examples where I've got projects that I want to track to. So I can put those values in here. Again, this can be alphanumeric. These projects are complete, so I don't need to code to them anymore, so I block it. Dimensions can also have roll-ups as well. So if I look at my regions, we're an international company, I want to track all of my different sales by these regions, but I also want to consolidate everything into US, and then I've got my international here as well. So again, I can report on 50 to see all of US together, or I can report on these all individually as well. So let's look at how you take transactions to dimensions. And this really applies whether you're doing a sales transaction, a purchasing transaction, an inventory adjustment, or if I just go into the journal entry screen here, you'll see an example of how we put dimensions onto a transaction. So I'll just come into a batch here. I'm gonna go ahead and I'll leave this one up for now. So here's my journal entry. I've got my GL account number here. I've got my debit or credit amount, and then here's where those dimensions are. So I can code a department. I can code that this is going to the Midwest. Maybe this one is actually going to Central. I'm not sure what the difference between Midwest and Central is. If I need to change one of these departments, I can flip this one over and pick admin instead. And there's my transaction. I'm going to go ahead and just delete this one real quick. So all of these grid pages in Business Central, I actually have the ability to copy and paste from Excel. So if I've got a journal entry, or maybe I've got a big purchase order with 50 lines on it, but I've got those lines in Excel, I can open up an Excel file and just paste that in. So here's where I've got my, let me find my payroll file. So here's my Excel document. The only rule with this copy paste is you just have to make sure your Excel file lines up with the columns in Business Central, which is what I'm doing here. Again, that is key because a user could come in here and personalize this page and start moving things around, adding fields in. If they do that, they're going to have to reconfigure their Excel file. But all I need to do is just copy these cells. And you can see I am also doing a dimension here. And I just paste that into here. There's my journal entry. We can go ahead and have the system renumber this document for me. Grab that next available document number. And now I have the ability to preview the posting here. So I'm going to go ahead and preview this. And what you're actually going to see is Business Central is doing bi-directional posting. So it's creating 2 types of transactions. Because my offset was actually going to a bank account, it's going to create this $20,000 withdrawal so I can reconcile this when we do our bank reconciliation. And then it's also going to create that journal entry to give me that offset to cash. And again, it's got my dimensions in here. If I need to attach supporting documentation, I certainly can. So I can put any kind of attachments on here if I wanted to. If I want to route this for approval, I can absolutely have approvals on here. So we can route it through different people, different department heads. Maybe it's got to go to a controller, to the CFO, depending on a dollar threshold. So you can set up what are the rules and criteria for this to get approved before we're able to post. Once it's approved and they're ready to post, I can just post the transaction through. let's take a look at some sales functionality real quick. I'll just, I'll pop into my customers here real quick. You're gonna see customers and vendors look very, very similar. So here's what my customer list looks like. Again, I've got the ability to drill back, sort, filter, export this data out. If I come into a sales order, again, this is gonna look almost identical to those purchasing pages I went into. So I've got some open sales orders here. I'll just go ahead and grab one. So again, I've got the ability to put attachments on here. If this is just taking up space though, I can actually collapse this down. So now I've got more room for data entry. If I come in here and I want to pick an item, I can come in here and, you know, again, I want that Berlin chair. So I can just start typing in Berlin and it's going to find that record for me. Grab that chair. With Business Central, you can have multiple locations. You can have bin codes on here. I can do serial lot number tracking, but I can put 4 items in here. And now if I expand out this fact box, it's actually going to show me, do I have this item available? So yeah, in this case, I actually do have 52 chairs available to sell. So I've got 58 on inventory, but I've only got, I'll keep sending me emails, but I've only got 52 that I actually can sell. On these order entry pages here though, and this applies on the purchasing side as well as the sales side, I can actually do different things. So again, maybe your service base, you don't need to have items. I could just have this go right to a GL account. And I can default this type to either item or GL account when I open up this page brand new. So again, that was a new feature about a year ago that came out. So now when I look at this list, it's actually showing me my chart of accounts. I don't know what my account number is. I know I want it to go to a job sales account maybe. I just type that in and again, it's filtering, finding that list here. We'll go ahead and add $1,000 onto here. Now I've got that transaction process. So again, same thing on the purchasing side. At this point, I could route it through for approval request. I can actually have a pick ticket or a shipment request get created. So what this pick ticket is doing is it goes into a separate document queue that my warehouse is looking at. They then have to fulfill, so they got to pull that product off and fulfill what is being shipped over. When they process that, then it's automatically going to update these quantities here to send out. So again, we can have some separation of duties and some controls over what's actually getting shipped. So my user here could not populate the screen. It's got to go through that pick ticket. Same thing exists on the purchasing side. We can do a put away request where they actually get it into a warehouse. They have to scan the bin that it's going to, and then it's going to update what did we actually receive. And then my AP person is going to match that invoice when it comes in, 2-3 weeks later, match the invoice to what did we actually receive from that vendor. And also approvals exist here as well. And I can email documents out as well. So if I have to send off a email confirmation, if I want to print them off, I certainly can do that. All right, just look at purchasing. We'll do a purchase order as well. So same page here. Again, I've got some views I've set up here. So if I want to see a receive not invoice view, I can actually click on that so I can see all of my purchase orders that we've received, but we haven't invoiced them yet. So I've got my list here. If I go into a PO, you're going to see it's going to look exactly like that sales order screen. So same thing here. I've got items in here, GL accounts. If I actually want to process fixed assets through here, this would update the book value. So I could flip this over to be fixed assets. So again, the system is doing that bi-directional posting between all the different modules. I got my fact box here as well. So if I've got attachments, vendor information, as well as line information as well here too. If we go look at inventory, so here's my items again. If you're a service-based company, but you still want to actually have product code set up, items in Business Central can be service-based or they can be non-inventoried. So we don't have to track on-hand quantities, but absolutely we can if we want to. If I come into an item here, you'll see some general information on that item. Again, same thing here. I can set up attachments on here. I can actually have pictures in here. I can have attributes. So these attributes can drive off this category code. So if I have a completely different type of products, I've got a table where I do want to measure some of these measurements here, but I've also got other products that are computers. Maybe I want to track RAM and CPU and some of those other things. Those attributes can be completely different based on the category we have here. I've also got the ability to have unique costs and price, so I can have discount pricing for customers. I can have promotional periods. This is actually a way that I can just track anytime we do a price increase. I can put that starting any date in here so we can always see from a historical perspective, what did we charge that item 3 years ago? I can go back and see it. This is, again, one of those screens I could do edit in Excel and to actually push price changes in mass up into Business Central, so I don't have to sit there and key it all in. We've also got replenishment in here as well. So is this something that we buy or do we make it? So do I do manufacturing as production order, or do I actually do what we call light manufacturing or assembly orders? And if we do build it, do we make it specific to an order, or do we make it so that we can stock it on a shelf? And then I've got planning parameters in here as well. What these planning parameters will do is it'll look at open orders, current quantities on hand, and whatever safety stocks or reorder points I put in the system here. And then I can go ahead and run my requisition worksheet, and the system is going to then come back with what it thinks I need to get onto orders. If I go in my requisition worksheet, I can process this requisition. So now here it is saying, all right, we've got a bunch of things we need to purchase. Some of the options on here, though, could actually be, you just need to adjust the quantity. So you've got a purchase order for 50. That's really too much. You only need 30. Or it might tell me to outright cancel an order. Or this could be where it is telling me, you know, you got to go ahead and build this. Or we got to transfer it from another site. So it's giving me all these different kinds of requisitions. I can choose which ones I want to take action on, and then I can process, and it'll automatically create whatever type of transaction it is. Again, maybe it's a transfer request, maybe it's a new purchase order, maybe it's a production order that we got to send off to our manufacturing floor. All right, last thing I just want to show is touch on some financial reporting. So this actually has been rebranded as well. If you looked at Business Central in the past, people might refer to it as account schedules. They're actually calling it financial reporting. So this is the built-in financial reporting tool. There's other tools, like I mentioned, Power BI, you can absolutely use for financials if you want. And there's another product out there called Jet Reports that a lot of people use for financials, or if you want to do more Excel-based reporting, you can do that. But what account schedules are giving me here is I've got basically a row definition and a column definition. What the row definition is doing is it's defining what type of data do I want to pull into the report, or what accounts do I want to pull into the report. Oh, I don't want to create a new row. That's a really bad example. Let me go into my income statement here. So here's all my account numbers that I want to pull in here. I can do ranges. I can do this by account category. So maybe I want to have my product sales in one account, in one row. What that means is if I add a new account number, it automatically pulls into here. But I can have totals in here, formulas. I can have section headers in here. Let's come all the way down. I got my income in here as well. Then what I do is I associate this with a column layout. And so the column layout is what type of data do I want? Do I want actuals? Do I want budget? Do I want year to date? Do I want rolling 3 months? Do I actually want to do departments side by side? So here's where I've actually got my departments on each side, and then I'm totaling those together. I match those up, and then I've actually got my report that I can run. So I can generate my report. All reports in Business Central have these output options, so I could absolutely print it, but I could send it off to an Excel document as well if I wanted to, if I want that data in Excel. Open up this report. And so there's what my report looks like. I do have the ability to preview this to the screen as well, though, if I want. So if I come up here and just let's run it here. So this will actually send it to the screen. So I can, right now I'm looking at daily income statement. Well, I can expand that out and say, no, I actually want to look at my year income statement. So now it's going to run for the entire year. I can do filtering on here. So again, these are some of my dimensions I have. Maybe I want to filter to a specific dimension. I have drill down capability still, so I can come down here and drill down onto the jobs. I can see my actual to budget, drill down on the actuals. I can see the individual transactions making up this year-to-date amount. And again, if I want that information in Excel, I certainly can. If I want to take this even farther, I can do this find entries. I can find where they put it. They just moved it on me. There's find entries. So this is where I mentioned, again, I can go look at every single touch point this transaction had. So if I want to go back to that original customer transaction, I can actually drill back and see the original invoice that got entered into the system.